Good morning. This is Dr. Ginny Barrow. This week's microlearning is coming to you directly from one of my most recent situations in life. And the learning really is that when things happened to you, as we typically refer to, when you reframe the situation and when you zoom out to look at really what's important, what matters most, and what you can control in that situation, that's when we're able to create the solutions that we need to move forward constructively instead of spiraling and going into a rabbit hole that will get us into blame, disappointment, etc. So here's an example of what's happening. As most of you know, I'm in the process of publishing my second book, Healing Leadership. And that means that I have to coordinate with my book coach, my designer, the editor, and these are three key groups of people that I need to be in contact with. Just recently, last night, I learned that once my book designer laid out the book, it was going to be 400 pages. Now, I know I have a lot to say, and I have 41 leaders that contributed to this gorgeous book that's coming out March 30th. But I realized that 400 pages is not realistic for someone to sit through and read. So my goal is I need to reduce the book by 100 pages. Now imagine that. We are only a few weeks away from publishing. And I have this news that was delivered to me last night. Now, what are my choices? I could go into a frantic mode and go crazy, insane, yell, scream, and do all kinds of things. Or I can zoom out and look at the situation with perspective and say, okay, Ginny, what are the options? What can you do moving forward? How can you shorten the book? And taking that approach, I reached out to my book coach and I said, how many words do I need to reduce it in order to reduce it 100 pages? So I went into creative mode and into solution mode rather than going into blame and getting upset and worrying about all kinds of things. The good news is that we always built in wiggle room. So even if we are delayed 1 week in the whole book production, I think we can still launch on March 30th. So this weekend, my job is going to be cutting back on 100 pages, book pages as we call them, so that I can publish a book that's a decent size of 300 pages for my readers and for you, who I know you are going to enjoy this book so much. So this is the micro learning for today. What is happening in your life right now that if you were to zoom out, you would be able to have more perspective and to look at the alternatives that you have in front of you that will create more peace. It doesn't mean that the problem is solved, but it means that you have the capacity to use all of your resources to solve the problem rather than go into a space where you take yourself down emotionally. You most likely are going to impact the people around you, because when we go down into a rabbit hole, we take people with us typically. And so instead of doing that, you're going to get creative and resourceful. That's what I'm doing with my team. All right, so I just want to leave you with that for the weekend. Think about a situation that you're currently facing, that if you were to zoom out, you can begin to look at more positive alternatives than potentially what you have been doing in the last week or the last month since you were given the news that has taken you into that tailspin. All right. I know that many of us are going through very difficult situations, and I don't downplay what they are. They could be health, it could be related to your children, it could be related to your parents. We are in very tough times right now. And I know that using the tools that I'm sharing with you on a weekly basis is not only a nice to have. In my opinion, these tools are essential to help us preserve and cultivate our well-being. Because if we're not healthy, if we're not taking care of ourselves, what can we expect from other people, right? We need to start with us. As leaders, it always starts with us. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you soon.